As someone who works in the intelligence community, you've given up a lot to do this work. You've happily committed yourself to tyrannical restrictions. You voluntarily undergo polygraphs. You tell the government everything about your life. You waive a lot of rights because you believe the fundamental goodness of your mission justifies the sacrifice of even the sacred. It's a just cause. And when you're confronted with evidence, not in an edge case, not in a peculiarity, but as a core consequence of the program, that the government is subverting the Constitution and violating the ideals you so fervently believe in, you have to make a decision. When you see that the program or policy is inconsistent with the oaths and obligations that you've sworn to your society and yourself, then that oath and that obligation cannot be reconciled with the program. To which do you owe a greater loyalty? A single act of whistleblowing doesn't change the reality that there are significant portions of the government that operate below the waterline, beneath the visibility of the public. Those secret activities will continue despite reforms. But those who performed these actions now have to live with the fear that if they engage in activities contrary to the spirit of society, if even a single citizen is catalyzed to halt the machinery of that injustice, they might still be held to account. The thread by which good governance hangs is this equality before the law. For the only fear of the man who turns the gears is that he may find himself upon them. Hope lies beyond. When we move from extraordinary acts of revelation to a collective culture of accountability within the intelligence community. Here, we will have taken a meaningful step toward solving a problem that has existed for as long as our government. We now have the largest unchallenged military machine in the history of the world. And it's backed by a political system that is increasingly willing to authorize any use of force in response to practically any justification. In today's context, that justification is terrorism. But not necessarily because our leaders are particularly concerned about terrorism in itself, or because they think it's an existential threat to society. They recognize that even if we had a 9/11 attack every year, we would still be losing more people to car accidents and heart disease. And we don't see the same expenditure of resources to respond to those more significant threats. What it really comes down to is the political reality that we have a political class that feels it must inoculate itself against allegations of weakness. Our politicians are more fearful of the politics of terrorism, of the charge that they do not take terrorism seriously, than they are of the crime itself. By preying on the modern necessity to stay connected, governments can reduce our dignity to something like that of tagged animals. The primary difference being that we paid for the tags, and they're in our pockets. It sounds like fantasist paranoia, but on the technical level, it's so trivial to implement that I cannot imagine a future in which it won't be attempted. It will be limited to the war zones at first. in accordance with our customs, but surveillance technology has a tendency to follow us home. Edward Snowden, 2016.